Deferring income tax can be a good thing, but it is not always the best thing. Today I want to talk about 3 types of accounts and how deferring income tax might impact you in the future. Being able to avoid paying income tax now or as you go along is nice, but there may come a point where you have to settle up. And so I want to talk through how that could impact you and could impact your heirs. The first account is the traditional IRA or 401k. And of course, when you make that contribution into that account, you get the tax deduction and you don't pay tax on the growth as it's growing. But at some point in time, when you take money out of that account, you're going to pay income tax on the full distribution, the money that you put in, plus all the growth. And when you pay that income tax, it's going to be at ordinary income tax rates. So you don't get any kind of tax break on that. Now, you also reach a point where you have to take money out. That's when you have to start your required minimum distributions. And whatever you don't pull out of that traditional IRA or 401k while you're living, whatever is left to your heirs will be taxed in the same manner to them. They'll pay ordinary income tax on it. And they will have a limited period of time to get the money out of that traditional IRA under the new laws. They'll have up to 10 years. If you're already taking required minimum distributions, they will have to continue taking required minimum distributions. So the traditional IRA or 401k has some restrictions on when you're allowed to pay that tax. You reach a point in time where you have to start paying the tax. And when your heirs receive it, they have a limited amount of time where they have to settle up on the tax. So that is a little more restrictive because that's just based on age, not on when it's best for you to do that. Now, a second type of account is your traditional taxable brokerage account. You might have an account where you own some stocks and some bonds and some mutual funds or exchange traded funds. Well, you can choose to invest in things that do not pay a current dividend, an exchange traded fund or a stock that doesn't pay dividends, and just allow that to grow. And that growth is not taxed until you actually sell the investment. So when you sell the exchange traded fund or you sell the stock, you trigger the gain at that point in time and you pay tax on the gain. And you're allowed to pay that tax at capital gains tax rates, which is a preferential tax rate under current law. So you get a better tax rate. On top of that, there's no set time that you have to trigger that gain. You can do that at any point in time that you want. So you can coordinate that with your income tax situation to trigger gains when it's going to be a lower tax and avoid triggering gains when you're going to have a higher tax. On top of that, when your heirs inherit, they actually get a step up in basis under current tax law, which means that if that investment has doubled or tripled or quadrupled, they are deemed to have received that with a cost basis equal to what it's worth, not what you paid for it. So when they inherit it upon your death, they get that step up in basis. They can sell the whole thing with no tax due. So that is a better tax situation for you and for them down the road, but not as good for you in the current year because you would have to pay tax on the money that's buying the investment. Now, the third account that sometimes people have is an annuity. And if you have an annuity that is not an IRA, it's called a non-qualified annuity, then the interest that is accumulating inside of that annuity is not taxed while it stays in the annuity. When you take money out of the annuity, then you have to settle up on the tax as you pull money out. That is also taxed at ordinary income tax rates. And when you pull money out, you have to take all the interest first before you get to take any of your principal out. It's not done on a pro rata basis. You can't take your principal out first. You have to take the interest first. When your kids inherit that, same for them. They have to pull the interest out first They pay tax on it at ordinary income tax rates, and they don't pay tax on your money that you already pay tax on, so that's not double taxed. But they would pay tax on the interest at ordinary income tax rates, and they have to take that out first. Not only that, they have a limited period of time where they can accomplish that. Unless they do what's called a non-qualified stretch, that is available with some companies, which allows them to spread it out a little bit longer. But for the most part, they're doing that in a short period of time. So it's not as flexible either. So when you're thinking about how you're going to invest, where you're going to put money, you obviously want to think about your current situation in the current year, but you also want to be aware of what are you going to encounter over your lifetime, and what will your heirs be faced with when they inherit? How will it impact them as well? And that way you can make the best decision for you now, for you in your future, for your heirs in the future. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. I look forward to seeing you again on my next video.